Evil Planet.
So, we got some stuff to talk about today. I know the last few episodes we talked a lot about, the American election stuff that was going on with Trump and Elon. I think at the time it was pretty pertinent to talk about that stuff. But now we have a few stories like that today, but mostly as well other stories that are kind of in line with the stuff that we've been talking about since we started doing this show. Actually, let's move some stuff up and just cover one of these stories first here. One of the traditional Evil Planet stories, you might say. You just look at this and you're like, holy fuck, what the hell's going on? So the headline here is Pastor Faces Jail Time for Housing the Homeless. A story in the Daily Journal by Casey Harper. It's a strong title there. We see that you're trying to house the homeless. Let's throw you in jail. So an Ohio pastor faces possible jail time for allowing the homeless to sleep in his church. Local officials in Bryan, Ohio have threatened Pastor Chris Avil, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, of Dad's Place Church for breaking the fire code and have even taken him to court, but he's not backing down. And I don't blame him too, because that's just bullshit. Breaking the fire code? Come on.
Yeah, they're not pissed about breaking the fire code. They're pissed about a bunch of homeless in the neighborhood.
Yeah, there's this attitude that's really disgusting. That's put forward a lot in modern society about homeless people, where it's almost like they're ducks, and it's like you're being told not to feed them breadcrumbs. Oh, don't feed them the breadcrumbs. They need to hunt for themselves. You don't want them coming all around here. And
last night, I ran into a homeless guy, and he just asked me for directions, just which way to go, to the nearest town, and treated him like a normal fucking person. And people view the homeless in a certain way, in like a really, negative way, and like see them as like dangerous and shit, but they're just regular people that have been faced with a really, unfortunate set of circumstances in their life.
Honestly, think about it like this. How close are you to being homeless?
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
People don't realize. Most people are like 1 to maybe 3 paychecks away from being homeless. And the reason that a lot of people don't get to that point, not the primary reason maybe, but one of the primary reasons is people have, not everyone, but some people have support systems in their lives. Families or friends, different people who might be able to help them out. Some people might have food banks in their areas, community centers that have this or that going on, depending on what vicinity you're in. The local government might have some programs for you, but that's just it, right? I think that's a huge issue for a lot of Americans living in, particularly urban areas. Like there's just a lot of people not taking those programs very seriously, or, a lot of people not willing to have, for example, a shelter built anywhere near them, the not in my backyard, the NIMBY types, as you might say.
Oh, that lowers property values, buddy. We can't do that.
Oh my God.
God forbid your house lose some value because there's people being helped in your area. See, that's the capitalist sickness. That's that sick capitalist mindset where it's like, I don't want the value of my property to go down even a little bit because there's people in my area getting support. Like it's madness.
Honestly, if you asked me, and if they had a decent low income housing situation that was well maintained, and it cut down on homelessness. Like, what's worse, having a bunch of people walk the streets around your city, or having a bunch of people that are in low-income housing? I would say homeless drug addicts on the street is way worse than even if they were drug addicts, like poor drug addicts that are doing drugs in their own home.
I'll say this one last thing, too, because, especially with what you said there, before I read some more of this article here. People will live in the suburbs. Like I grew up in fucking suburbs, like walking through some of these streets, you're like, oh my God, like every street looks uncannily like the next. And one thing that's deceptive about areas like that is there's still poverty, there's still drug use, there's still violence, and this, like, everything that is attributed to homeless people. And that's most visible in a lot of urban, highly densely populated urban areas. And that stuff is just kind of hidden in the suburbs. That's one of the reasons why I think it's valid to have like a uncomfortable feeling about the suburbs. David Lynch kind of touched on that with a lot of his work. These kind of suburban towns where everything seems okay, but under the surface, it's almost like sick. There's a lot of like really weird, depressed shit going on. Or sorry, I meant to say depraved shit going on. And it's just locked behind these doors of these rows of homes that all look the same. And, when people go outside, they're, oh, hey, how's it going on? Oh, and everyone acts like everything's okay. But I feel like with, with densely populated urban areas, people are shoved closer and closer together into living spaces where you have tons of people in an apartment building per se, or a condo, and it gets harder and harder to hide that shit. It explodes onto the streets because you have people, a lot more people walking places and taking public transportation instead of everyone in their own vehicle, which is an extremely inefficient way to travel too, but we don't need to get into that here.
People in the suburbs are like isolated, are like divided from one another. Like, you don't know your neighbor, you don't talk to them.
Yeah. That's how it was when I grew up in the suburbs. Like, I didn't really know my neighbors. Like, my neighbors didn't, even though we lived in a house that had like, fucking like 8 feet of space between each other. Like, we just didn't really talk to each other much growing up. Like, I think at one point, one of my neighbors, like, we almost talked to them. They like helped tune my guitar a few times. Like, oh, one of them's in a band. Oh, but you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I always thought that was weird too growing up. It's like, why don't my parents actually talk to any of the neighbors? Why is everyone so like antisocial? Like, you walk through the streets too, there's like nobody there.
Yeah,
like
it's desolate. There's no sense of no sense of community. People are just like insulated from one another. It's not like, I used to think it was nice. Now I'm just like, fuck this. Like, this is depressing. Yeah. This goes like against like intrinsic like human value.
Speaking of going against intrinsic human value, in November, this is a quote here from the pastor. In November, we received a warning from the city that we were in violation of the zoning laws, since we had people that would come and we would not ask them to leave without a biblical reason, that we were in violation of the city ordinance that says you can't have no first floor residence. It's like, who gives a fuck? This is him quoted talking to a publication. His lawyer said that other local businesses have been treated differently and that his client is being treated unfairly. Then they also have a video here, but they're basically, I think, relitigating a lot of this stuff. It just blows my mind that this kind of shit is still going on, especially because these police departments gotta know, these government organizations or these government fucking councils or whatever, gotta know that when you do this, it's gonna become a fucking news story and people are gonna see it. So it's just like, why? Like, why do they still insist on being just straight up like villains?
It's shameless.
It really is.
This is what you do. So you market yourself as a 24-hour church, right? And you have someone constantly on stage preaching, right? And you just let homeless people sleep in the pews. Boom, done.
There you go.
If like a police officer comes in and they're like, hey, why are you housing homeless people? You just say, no, I'm giving a sermon. And then they ask, like, oh, why are they asleep? You say, oh, I'm sorry, it's not a very interesting sermon.
It's like a low-key, just like a homeless shelter. Like, I've seen this guy in Toronto, for example, who's just building like extremely small, tiny homes. And he's going and setting them up in the city for homeless people. And they have like solar panels on the roofs. They have like little toilets that you can use. They have little kitchenettes with like a sink, and there's like a hand fucking pump for like soap and all this shit. And they can like charge stuff, and there's like a little thing that they can use to cook stuff, and it looks incredibly safe. And he's been showing about how he's like building these things and setting them up. And I'm like, why are more people not like funding shit like that? And one thing I seen too when I was looking into it is there's actual like opposition to this from like apparently like the Toronto fucking city council or some shit like that. I didn't get to see as much detail as I may have wanted to, but it's just fascinating that there's so many police organizations in collusion with, you know, local governments who are just like, nope, we're not helping any of these homeless people. And the conclusion that I always come to is that basically there's kind of this unspoken thing where they want people to be homeless as a sort of, you know, way to scare the average person. Like they don't want to solve homelessness because it's useful for them to have homelessness as like a threat for, you know, anybody else who might be thinking of, you know, doing anything that might be radical or might be risky. It's like, nope, you try any of that shit, you're going to be fucking homeless. You're going to be on the street. I think they want it that way.
If you want to just straight up radicalize yourself, go watch the movie They Live. I implore you, go watch the movie They Live.
It's one of my favorite movies. I've seen it many times.
Yes. I remember I was showing my girlfriend in college that movie, and she wasn't like a huge politics person at the time. But you become super politically active whenever you have to go through like some kind of struggle, you know.
Okay, so we don't have to look at this video here. I put that as the source, but I'll just read what I wrote here, and then we can just expand upon it because there's been a lot of talk about this. Trump threatening Canada with basically economic devastation.
Oh, I've got a tweet. I've got
kind
a tweet
of invasion.
About that.
Oh yeah, you can pull it up. Go ahead. Go
Team
ahead.
Rocket.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, I'll say this too quickly though. He's also been threatening Iran with like just hostile military action or takeover or war. I don't know exactly what he's trying to threaten Iran with, but yeah. But the stuff with Canada is, you know, we can get into that too. But yeah, go ahead and read the tweet.
Bomb the oil fields. Bomb the nuclear facilities.
It's gonna be a big, beautiful war. It's gonna be tremendous.
It's gonna be headed by Israel. We will help Israel, our greatest ally. I love them.
We're gonna put Benjamin Netanyahu in an Ava, and we're gonna have him fight the Islamic Jihad project.
He has a 100%.
Gonna hit him with an S2 drive.
Listen, he has a 100% sync rate with his Ava, one of the highest in history.
Some say it's the
turn
best.
Elon against him.
Yeah,
Elon's
Netanyahu and Elon are gonna fight in their own Avas.
There's something about angels. The Iranians, they have angels.
Talking about Adam. I don't know what it is, but it sounds very bad.
Listen here. We are the Lillans. Okay, let me read this. Okay, so Donald, he tweeted X, whatever. What is it called whenever you post something on X?
I just call it posts.
It's still tweeted. Okay,
yeah, it's a tweet.
Okay,
it's still a tweet.
Okay, he wrote, based on Ontario, Canada placing a 25% tariff on electricity, quote unquote. I don't know how that's a quote unquote, but whatever. Coming into the United States, I have instructed my Secretary of Commerce to add an additional 25% tariff to 50% on all steel and aluminum coming into the United States from Canada.
What? 50%? This guy's nuts.
Yeah, one of the highest tariffing nations anywhere in the world. So he's saying that Canada is one of the highest tariffing nations in the world, even though we're the ones who started it. Insane. All right. This will go into effect tomorrow morning, March 12th. Also, Canada must immediately drop their anti-American farmer tariff of 250% to 390% on various U.S. dairy products. That doesn't sound like it's dropping. It sounds like you're increasing it. Am I wrong here? It went from 250 to 390.
Fucking moron.
Question Donald Trump,
It's,
Emperor
and also-
Trump.
it's a performance.
And also, am I reading this wrong? He said electricity coming into the United States, not us selling them power, which would be what a tariff would be placed on, right? Because anything coming into the country has a tax on it from that country, right?
Here's the thing. Like it's a lost game, or what should I say? It's a pointless endeavor to try and understand any of this in a way that makes sense.
It just sounds like they increased the price of power.
Well, effectively, like I don't. The details are one thing if they're affecting you, but I would just say just wait and see, because who the fuck knows? It seems like every single moment the details of it are changing, and the things that Trump are saying don't make any sense. Because one moment, one moment he'll say, "Yes, we're gonna make a deal. We're using the tariffs as leverage," but then he'll also start talking about how much money you're gonna make from the tariffs. And if you're
you don't
using
make
the
money from it, it's a tax.
This is what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And that's another thing too, specifically, that he's like, we're gonna make all this money from the tariffs. We're gonna be so rich from all these tariffs. But then he's also implying that they're gonna use the tariffs as leverage. And it's like, if they're gonna use the tariffs as leverage, then that kind of insinuates that the tariffs are only going to be like a temporary threat that aren't actually going to go into effect, or they're not going to be in effect for very long, maybe like a week or two. And then they're going to be used to get some sort of concession out of like whatever country that they're attempting to place a tariff on, or, that kind of shit. And it doesn't make any sense, because if you're trying to do one or the other, you can't do both. So which is it? And I don't think Trump is even sure. Like, I think he's legitimately starting to have dementia. Like, he has gone so fucking far off the rails. If you look at Trump term 1 and Trump term 2 now, like before, it seemed way more cohesive, even if you grant that he was being dishonest and he wasn't like actually like wanting to do all these things. He was just saying it to be like fake populist. Like, even if you give him that, the stuff that he's doing now and the stuff that he's saying now makes zero fucking sense, even speaking relatively. It's just bonkers fucking bullshit.
Well, yeah, he's going through dementia, like the early stages of dementia, and also he's high as balls on like European Sudafed.
Yeah.
And he's a narcissist.
Yeah, and an idiot.
He's drinking his own Kool-Aid. Yeah, that will make you fucking sometimes more delusional than anything else.
All right, let me finish this. Canada must immediately drop their anti-American farmer tariff of 250% to 390% on various U.S. dairy products, which has long been considered outrageous. I will shortly be declaring a national emergency on electricity within the threatened area. This will allow the U.S. to quickly do what has to be done to alleviate this abusive threat from Canada. If other egregious long-time tariffs are not likewise dropped by Canada, I will substantively increase on April 2nd the tariffs on cars coming into the U.S., which will essentially permanently shut down the automobile manufacturing business in Canada.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at too, is that he is trying, and he said this too, somebody asked him about, I don't know if they asked him about military action against Canada or what. He said something to the effect of, I want to economically devastate them. And apparently that's supposed to be in service of making Canada bend the knee and become the 51st state. Yeah, exactly. And essentially, dude, it's fucking a nightmare.
The trade war is, hey, we're going to damage ourselves, but hopefully we will damage you more and we can last longer than you can, so that eventually you will bend the knee and you will do whatever we want. You might not become the 51st state, but maybe you'll become like a proxy or some bullshit.
Dude, it's like what Russia's fucking doing, except it's a fucking literal military war, not an economic one. Like,
yeah, they're literally like, it's fucked up too, because I've been thinking about it a lot over the last couple of weeks, and it's like there's both of you and a lot of other people too that are Americans, and like I hold you guys, near and dear to my heart, very close friends and whatnot, obviously, but this shit is crazy, because like, what if there ends up being some sort of like military conflict, because what worries me, and I was going to bring this up too, is the part of Canada that I live in is like the almost like the dick of Canada if you look at like the geography of Canada on the map. And I think Trump wants to take that area and like the Windsor area, and basically he wants to annex at the very least the land around the United States Canada border that matters the most in terms of water rights, which is the Great Lakes. Is he's made insinuations that he wants to basically take that land, and that's the land that I live on. So I'm like, fuck, dude, if something breaks out, like, I'm not taking that shit. Like, and I think most people here would not take that shit either. Like, there's gonna be, and I like this is me making a prediction about the future geopolitical situation. You know, I'm not trying to make any fucking threats. Obviously, we have to clarify this for YouTube because they're very fucking touchy with this shit. But I will just say that if anything like that actually played out, there would be a lot of armed resistance. I'll just say that. And I don't want to necessarily be a part of that or get caught up in it, but I'm at the point now where I'm like, all right, well, I need to put in some time at the fucking range because if anything, you know, breaks out, I want to be able to at least handle a weapon and defend myself. Like, it's scary times that we're living in, seriously.
Same. Everyone go out, buy a gun.
Yeah, be responsible, be safe, you know, follow the laws, but
yes, 100% follow
learn
the
how to
law.
defend yourself. I'll just say that as well. Yeah, get educated on it. Learn survival skills because shit is not looking good right now, and they're gonna do nothing but help you.
Learn how to grow and preserve your own food. Learn some carpentry. Just, you know, whatever. Just learn a skill that's useful in the apocalypse, and then you won't get eaten.
Be frugal with your money while society is still here.
Yeah,
yeah.
Try and spend some time with your family too, and just you know,
call your mom. Tell her you love her.
Yeah. Be grateful in general. Like.
Yes. But yeah, continuing with what we're talking about here. We can talk about the House GOP budget resolution that passed. The vote was 217 to 215. Big win for the Republicans. But this included, as we I think mentioned in the previous episode, maybe we have to mention it again. I don't know if we did. $880 billion in Medicaid cuts and almost $250 billion. I think it was at least around 220, but maybe closer to 230 billion of cuts to SNAP benefits, like food stamps and shit like that. So this is over $1 trillion in cuts to entitlements. Like, people are going to die. People are going to starve.
And it's going to hit the red states the hardest. Like,
yeah. I live in a red state. I remember when Elon first got into the treasury and started cutting, slashing and burning shit, and it was like I think for a minute people were like, oh my god, snap is gone, WIC is gone, I've got family with an infant, and I was literally asked like, hey, if we need to, can you please buy us baby formula to help us? People
are struggling.
It's
already bad enough, and then they do this shit. Like, what?
Yeah,
you can't help but think they want people to die.
Yeah, so I looked at the annual U.S. Healthcare spending costing. So the Medicaid budget, it's over $600 billion annually, covering nearly 80 million people, including low-income individuals, families, and people with disabilities. So that's a large chunk being taken out of Medicaid.
So we have to make a distinction, too, because Medicaid and Medicare, they said they're not touching one. Apparently Medicare, they're not touching. That's what they're saying for now, apparently. If there's any details on that we're wrong about, because the situation is still kind of all over the place, correct us in the comments, guys, but that's the best that I can parse from this.
Didn't they also raise drug prices under Medicaid?
Well, you know what's crazy? There was a plan to reduce the cost of certain drugs. That was just done away with. There's like a bunch of fucking cancer research for kids that's been done away with.
Insulin.
It's just like evil
I think
shit.
It's gone up 1,000% in price. Like, I think it was like $7 a vial if you have Medicaid, and then it's now $80 a vial.
While we're on the topic of cuts that are killing people, USAID official ousted while writing scathing memo on Trump cuts. This is an article in Yahoo News. I think it was actually from the New Republic. I think they're sourcing this from, by Malcolm Ferguson. I'm just going to read some of this. The U.S. Agency for International Development Acting Assistant Administrator Nicholas Einrich, who was placed on administrative leave for writing 2 damning memos regarding the agency's recent failure to provide life-saving international aid, was about to publish a third, and then they were stopped, but then it was obtained by another publication. So in the first memo, it described severe staff reductions from 783 positions to 69, and in his second, he noted that 72 different U.S. aid activities had no funding, leading to a death toll that is not known. But in his third memo, he estimated how many people will die or get deadly diseases as a result of the cuts. The memo notes that a permanent halt of $7.7 billion in aid could lead to, quote, 12.5 to 17.9 million cases of malaria, with an additional 71,000 to 166,000 deaths annually, a 28 to 32% increase in tuberculosis globally, an additional 200,000 paralytic polio cases a year, and in a potential worst-case scenario, over 28,000 cases of Ebola, Marburg, or related diseases, according to the summary.
Well, let's think about it like this, though. If they don't get those vaccines, then they won't get all. Yeah, that is a joke.
Just for clarity, YouTube, that is a joke.
God, I hate that I have to do that every single time. I know, it
sucks.
Damn it. I hate YouTube. I hate the algo speak that has to happen.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, isn't it? It just ruins any like natural flow of like comedic ability.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because I feel like we're almost held to higher standards than a lot of like fucking daytime TV shows and shit like that. Like obviously we can curse and say, you know, maybe some controversial things that they can't.
Yeah.
But you know, there's so many things that like you can barely get away with talking about online because they'll just shut you down.
Steven Crowder gets away with having like the Ku Klux Klan, like having like KKK skits.
Well, Crowder's on Rumble now, so he gets to do that because, you know, he's got a contract with Rumble.
Fucking Rumble.
Yeah, but it really is all the anti-vaxxers who ruined it for us. Thanks.
Yeah, fucking assholes. They ruined it all.
Yeah, just because
world ruined it all.
Yeah, just because you didn't want to get one shot that would have, you know, potentially saved you or, you know, kept you from getting like a worse version of the flu.
Dude, the fact that there's still people who are fucking whining about the pandemic years later and like, oh, I couldn't go to my favorite restaurant. It was a fucking nightmare. It's like, oh my God, you're insufferable, man.
Hey, that's Joe Rogan.
Yeah, no,
Joe Rogan still to this day just complains.
He's one of those people, yeah. Still bitching about it.
Oh, I had to cancel my tour dates.
It's funny because like when he talks about it too, he will specifically a lot of the time just admit like, yeah, it was because I couldn't go to my favorite restaurants. And be like, all these restaurant owners, they couldn't open up. It's like, yeah, you're just pissed you couldn't go to like Outback Steakhouse or whatever the fuck.
You know, like I think during the pandemic is when Joe Rogan saw how he could just easily grift off of the fucking right and then start just following the rest of the fucking lemmings. Like
I don't know if with honestly, I think with Joe, he's just like not. I don't think that's his intention to necessarily like intentionally grift. I think on some level, Joe Rogan just like started to shift more to the right on certain things, and then because like other people just didn't want to fucking put up with this stupid bullshit, naturally he started attracting more right-wing grifters, and then they started influencing his fucking worldview. And I think, you know, he just kind of more has like, oh, I want to hang out with the boys. But like over the years, his, you know, kind of childlike curiosity, as many people have put it, kind of just evolved into like, you know, like almost
being
like
a piece of shit.
He evolved into like an old man who's like kind of set in his ways and just complains constantly about like, oh, the Democrats and this and that, and has like his little pet peeves, his pet issues that he constantly bitches about. He's like a different person now. A lot of people have been pointing that out lately. He's just like a different guy.
Not for the better.
Yeah, this is hold up. Let me just double check this. The last political story that we have here. FBI agents expressed shock and dismay over naming of right-wing podcaster to number 2 post. So yeah, Dan Bongino, who once called the FBI irredeemably corrupt, suggested on his podcast Monday that he was prepared to step out of his role as a MAGA warrior. So yeah, insane right-wing grifter Dan Bongino is now the second. Dan Bongino, he is now the second in command of the FBI. I've been watching a lot of X-Files lately and just thinking about that guy running the FBI. It's just so fucking funny. Let me read a little bit of this. It's an article by Ken Dilianen, Ryan Riley, and Michael Cosner. Current and former FBI officials expressed shock and dismay Monday over the news that Donald Trump had selected a right-wing podcaster and ardent FBI critic to be the Bureau's deputy director. On Bongino's podcast, former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino, who once called the FBI irredeemably corrupt, thanked the president for the appointment and suggested that he was prepared to step out of his role as a MAGA warrior, presumably to lead the department. It's crazy. It makes me think of, what's his name? Pete Hegseth, who's like, I promise that I will quit being an alcoholic if I am given this position. And he's still just seen with like a flask walking around, just like getting fucking hammered. Like, if we really are living in idiocracy. I've said this multiple times, but just a bunch of fucking incompetent doofuses running America and like the other countries in the world who just aren't quite there yet. They're just like, they still have completely incompetent leaders, but they're like kind of trying to put on a veneer of like, oh yes, we're professional and we know what we're doing. But it's just such bullshit.
Can we see a picture of Dan Bongino? Can we get a physiognomy check on this guy?
Yeah, let's measure his skull here. Hold up.
Well, that is part of what I want to talk about. He's got a very blocky,
all right,
square-shaped head. Like, he looks like Minecraft Steve. Fuck,
all
dude.
right.
He looks like fucking Megamind.
I'm pulling this image up and just saving it as photo 1 so we can reference it later.
His forehead is enormous.
You gotta shoot Minecraft Steve, but you gotta put like Dan Bongino's head on top of it.
Minecraft Bongino.
He literally looks. He even has the goatee. It's crazy.
His head is really square, but then it's like his hairline is really round.
Yeah, what's going on with this guy's head? Why does he look like that?
Makes me think of the head for all the big brain ideas.
I think his hairline is just fucked up.
Dude, look at this picture. Oh my god,
really receded.
Dude, this does not look like a real person. How is this guy real? Hold up. Dan Bongino photo 2. What the fuck is going? Dude, look at his hand.
Bro, this guy has to replace Jack Black in the new Minecraft movie.
I have to open up like Paint and save this. It's like fucking
Yeah.
Screenshot does not want to work. Dude, what the fuck? Dan Bongino is like not a real person.
He looks like you would see him out in the woods somewhere, like punching trees.
Yeah. Where were we? So I guess this is a quote from him. I get it if you're a political opponent of mine that has been involved with proudly celebrating a weaponized justice system, how you don't understand how a guy like me who discusses partisan content in an opinion show and go and do unquestionably nonpartisan job. I'm going to ask you a simple question. Have you seen what I did before I came here? He's referring to his work as a, I guess, Secret Service agent. He continued, I'm committed to service. People play different roles in their lives. People are dads, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe any of this shit.
Dan has never been in the military, never worked for FBI, never been a police officer. To my knowledge, he's just like a grifter and a podcaster.
He seems like a LARPer.
So he is a former Secret Service agent.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'm wrong.
I read that earlier in this article, but yeah, he is a former Secret Service agent. I don't really know what his history is with the Secret Service, though.
If you're a Secret Service agent, then that means you were once a Marine, then, right?
I don't think, does it?
I think it does.
I have no clue.
Let me Google it real quick because
fact check
I think that is a thing because I remember specifically like being in high school I remember specifically in high school, whenever like there's this one ROTC kid, he said constantly was like, I want to be in the Marines. I want to be in the Marines. And then he said that he wanted to be in the Secret Service. So let me do a little fact check.
All right. Let me read more here. Bongino's conciliatory words did little to reassure skeptics within the FBI, who noted that in the Bureau's 117-year history, the deputy director has always been a career FBI agent with deep knowledge of how the Bureau functions, and not a political operator selected by the president. Neither FBI Director Kash Patel nor Bongino have ever worked at the FBI. Oh yeah, I'm sure that's going to go great. In fact, the FBI Agents Association said in a memo to the workforce that Patel had privately committed to installing an agent as his second in command. And he just fucking lied and did this. The group did not comment Monday, and the FBI declined to comment. So there you go. We have some FBI agents here saying this is beyond problematic, blah, 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 blah. I mean, like, another one said, I didn't sleep and I want to pack my desk today. So yeah, FBI doing great right now under this current administration.
The freaking head of the secret.
Okay,
What
okay.
the
I did
fuck?
some fact checking. So
Okay.
yeah, my girlfriend did some fact checking for me, and apparently you have to have some kind of law enforcement and or military background or private investigator background. But you don't have to have a degree or anything.
I guess they count the Secret Service as sort of like police or something like that. I guess. Or maybe they're just like, I don't know. The thing is, they're breaking so many laws that I wouldn't be surprised if they just, flouted that requirement and just said, nope, we're making this ex-Secret Service podcaster guy the fucking deputy director.
Who was he under, though? Like, which president was he protecting if he was in the Secret Service? Was it Bush? Was it Obama?
Let me fact check that right now.
Obama?
Okay, so in 2006, he was assigned to protect George W. Bush's second term.
It
So
would
there
be
you
so
go.
funny if he's the guy who has to like protect George W. Bush from having shoes thrown at him.
You had one job and you failed.
Well, George did it on his own. Cat-like reflexes.
Wasn't that during his first term?
I don't know. Like, I've seen the video where he was doing some like speech and someone threw not one but two shoes at him.
Oh yeah.
And he missed both times.
The first time I ever saw that, it was on YTMND, I think. It was great. That was a great site. Anyways, we got to move on to this because this is probably one of the most concerning stories for the average person, even outside of America right now.
Oh, dude, can I tell a story about this? Well, you read the headline first, but
Sure.
I got a story
Yeah, I was
to
gonna
tell.
say.
So headline here from ABC News is Measles death of unvaccinated child in Texas is the first fatality in the U.S. in a decade. Yeah, there's currently a measles outbreak going on, but yeah, and it's actually moved up to Canada from America already. But yeah, go ahead.
So whenever we saw this story, I was in the office and I was talking with some of my office buddies, and we have this boomer that works there who's like a Trump tard. And we just assumed that he would be anti-vax, and we were right because we had like this group chat that we sent this out, like this article, and we just said, hey, check your vax record, and stay safe, essentially. And he like lost his shit.
Wow, I'm not surprised.
In office trolling. So great.
Did somebody have to like talk to him about it, or were you guys just, like, fuck
it's
this idiot?
it's like a private chat.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you were just intentionally doing it to troll him?
Yeah, we were.
That's funny. So,
every office has that one guy that people are just like, yeah, let's fuck with.
not so funny. An unvaccinated school-aged child in Texas has died of measles, the first death associated with an outbreak in the western part of the state that has infected more than 100 people. Lubbock City spokesperson Lauren Adams confirms the death to ABC News on Wednesday. In a press release, they said, the child was hospitalized in the northwestern city of Lubbock last week and tested positive for measles. As of Wednesday, 124 cases have been confirmed in association with the outbreak. Almost all of the cases are in unvaccinated individuals or individuals whose vaccination status is unknown, and 18 people have been hospitalized so far, DSHS said. Interesting. Children and teenagers between ages 5 and 17 make up the majority of cases, with 62 followed by 39 cases among children age 4 and younger.
Have you guys had your MMR vaccine? Measles,
believe
mumps, rubella.
I believe I had one as a kid. Yeah.
I think you're supposed to get like 2 doses. I think you're supposed to get one as a kid and one as an adult. I need to check into that because if
Yeah.
measles is on the rise, then I really don't want to get that shit.
Yeah, no. I'm pretty sure there's no known cure for it. Let me read some of the article here. The outbreak has since spread to several. Is this counties? Yeah, I almost thought it said countries. The outbreak has since spread to several counties in the region and is suspected to have spread into New Mexico. And another thing too, since this article, because this article is from February 26th, which is fucking like 2.5 weeks ago. This has since spread to Canada. And this is here, not too far away from where I live right now. So I'm going to have to look into my vaccination status as well. There's a quote here from a doctor. This death underscores the real danger of measles. It's a severe disease that can take lives despite being preventable. Jesus fucking Christ. It's a severe disease that can take lives despite being preventable with vaccination. Every new case is a reminder of why vaccination is critical. Tragically, with an outbreak of this scale, a fatal case was not unexpected, especially among those unvaccinated. Given how contagious measles is, we anticipate more cases in the coming weeks. This is the first time I've had any professional experience with a measles outbreak. I saw one travel-related case when I was in medical school very briefly, but at that time, back in around 2000, we really thought we'd had eradicated measles from the United States and didn't have any anticipation of seeing any outbreaks here. But these stupid fucking anti-vaxxers are bringing it back. Oh my! It infuriates me, honestly.
Do you want to know what the boomer in my office said? The reason for all the measles is he said it was because of like the flood of migrants into the country.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
What a sack of shit.
I know, right?
Fuck that person. I hope they get measles. I hope they get measles and suffer and then survive. So
well,
they can
they're probably vaccinated and probably didn't give a shit about vaccines until like I don't know, like 2020.
Yeah, you go back and you look at their social media and you like you scroll all the way to the bottom of the feed. You control F and then you don't see anything with vaccines until like fucking March of 2020, and it's like, oh, okay, I see.
It's so funny because I remember Trump on the campaign trail for the 2024 election. He was saying like, and we love Operation Warp Speed. I got the vaccine out, and everyone was telling him like, boo, shut up, don't tell us that.
Yeah. Yep. But they'll never actually hold Trump to account for any of the things that they think he did wrong.
Yeah, the one good thing he did right, like one of the one good things he did right. His own base just hates it.
Yep. Or a bunch of fucking idiots.
Yeah.
So this is our last story of the night here. American son and father almost shot and jailed after a bungled ICE raid. So let's check this out here. Michigan man was surrounded by ICE agents pointing guns, and they also arrested him while he dropped his autistic son off at school. Jose James has lived in the U.S. for 30 years, owns a painting business, and has a work permit. There's a quote here from the kid. My dad went to go drop off my brother to his middle school at about 8 a.m. He turned around the corner, and that's where 3 cops stopped them. Dad said they pulled their guns on him. Trump signed an executive order allowing ICE raids at schools, hospitals, and churches. I think he signed it on the first day he was in office on January 20th. This guy was booked at a St. Clair County jail, but with no criminal charges and an immigration hold. Right now, it's unclear when or if he will appear before a judge. And we got to talk too, because it's related to this. There was a pro-Palestinian protester at Columbia University who was detained and then moved like across the country from I think like New York to New Jersey and then to New Orleans.
Yeah.
And is being held in a facility. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're holding him and we're gonna deport him because he has pro-Hamas views or something like that.
It was he was an organizer for the pro-Palestine movement at his college. I don't know what it's called. Was it Columbia?
I believe it was Columbia. Yeah.
Yeah, Columbia University. Apparently, the university takes money from the state of Israel.
Yes.
And he thought that since they are currently engaged in a genocide, that it wasn't moral or right for them to be taking that money. So they started trying to get the college to boycott, divest from Israel.
Yep, that was a big part of it.
I think I'm missing. I think I'm missing one of those. It's divest, boycott, something else. Sanction, yeah, boycott, divest, sanction.
Yeah, it's honestly disgusting too. Like you can't even protest against Israel or Zionism.
This is, by the way, that guy had his green card. He was a full-fledged U.S. citizen, and he was not arrested for a crime. He was arrested because he is, quote unquote, a threat to national security.
This is profiling, like straight up just an act of white supremacy. Like
there was some sort of like statement or press release from the White House, and they pretty much admitted that he's not being accused of any sort of crime. So this is, a lot of people like to say this shit, but this is eerily close to something out of 1984, like thought crime. And it's crazy because you're supposed to have freedom of speech as an American citizen. You're supposed to have the ability to, just say what you think and fucking, as long as you're not like threatening people or, some very limited shit like yelling fire in a crowded theater, that type of shit, You should be allowed to express this shit. You should be allowed to, like, even if he was like, yes, I support Hamas, I think they're based. Doesn't that fall under freedom of speech? Even though, 100%. Regardless of what you think of that statement, even if you don't support it.
People can be fucking Nazis, white supremacists in America, like...
Yeah, they could say that a certain German man from the 40s did nothing wrong, and they don't get any shit for it. No jail time, nothing, no hate crime, nothing.
Elon Musk, Sieg Heils.
Yeah. At the presidential inauguration, once to the audience and then to the flag.
It hits a hard ass Sieg Heil twice, like right after each other. Yeah. One after another.
It would have been funnier if he would have hit the dab instead, but no, couldn't do it.
He Sieg Heils and then he dabs.
He looked like such a child when he was doing that.
I remember, like, he even, like, grunted to. He put his chest into it.
Yeah, he almost, like, launched himself forward.
He was like, ooh. Did you guys see the Tesla shit at the White House?
Where they're basically doing a Tesla ad, yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, you can see in Trump's hand, he's literally reading an ad for Tesla. And then he has, like, a list of prices of the models of Tesla that he was going to buy. And I remember the funniest fucking thing. It was when Trump is like looking inside of the Tesla and it's like, oh my God, it's got computer.
He said it's all computer.
This is a different panel than I've had. Everything's computer.
It's all computer, not computers. It's all computer. And it's just a tablet.
Yeah.
It's a grandpa awed by a tablet.
Oh my God, it's a touch screen.
How do you even drive this thing?
It's literally idiocracy. Like,
I love driving. I can't drive my own car though, but I love driving.
It's got an autopilot. I like that quite a bit.
Like that a lot.
I can take my hands off the wheel and I can do my little dance.
You could jerk.
I need both hands to do my dance, so I can take my hands off the wheel. It's very nice.
I'm gonna crank up YMCA and I'm gonna do my little dance.
Oh man, we do love that little dance that he does.
He has like Aiden Ross in like the back seat, not even the passenger.
It's gonna be Aiden Ross, Andrew Tate, and Elon Musk in my car. God, that's a nightmare blunt rotation.
I was gonna say, nightmare blunt rotation. Yeah, 100%.
God, Aiden's gonna sniff fucking Tate's chair again once he gets out of the Tesla.
He's gonna sniff Trump's seat. Be like, oh yeah.
By the way, if you guys don't know about it, like Google Aiden Ross sniffs chair. It's a real thing.
Definitely go look that up and have that in your search history. Oh man. All right. I think that's it for tonight though. Just a short and sweet episode. Probably going to trim that down to like 45 or 50 minutes.
That was pretty good.
We like it raw.
We like it raw. I say I like it. Actually, no. Trump likes it fucking well done with ketchup.
Oh, I thought you were going to go in a different direction, but whatever.
Remember,
like it raw, no condom. Cream pie her bum hole. We like it very raw. I don't know what direction you think I was going to take it in.
Plenty of baby oil. I learned it from Diddy.
Well, thank you both for coming on. It was not an exceptionally long one, but still, I think, a good one.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting more used to speaking in general. It's not something that, I normally do. I don't really have I guess a skill in that.
It's nice too because you can record it and then just edit it down later, so you can take a moment to
Yeah.
think of what you're saying, and there's no pressure because it's not live.
For sure, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both for coming on. I will see you both later.